Coming up today on Rookie Audio, we've got Eintracht Frankfurt at home in the Bundesliga. Can we keep ourselves inside of a European qualifying spot? And then I'll make my way forward a month to either side of an international break. We've got two quite winnable league games, but then we'll come back for the third round of the DFB-Pokal, where we host Hamburg. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 57 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM with Jahn Regensburg. I hope you're doing well and come update as I mentioned during the intro. Going to make our way through an entire month of the season, and that month is November. First up we host the defending DFB-Pokal champions in Eintracht Frankfurt, and then off the back of Stuttgart away and Hamburg at home in the league. We've got Hamburg again at home, but that time it will be in the third round of the DFB-Pokal. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to those two games coming up in today's episode, but this comes off the back of yesterday when we took on both Bayer Leverkusen and Borussia Dortmund. So if you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Very good result. We bettered Bayer Leverkusen, but then kind of bottled things late there in front of the yellow wall against Borussia Dortmund. But to be fair, still going very well here in our first season up in the top flight with Jahn Regensburg. Just one game we've played off the back of the episode. It was the second round of the DFB-Pokal against the Stuttgart team, who are sitting down in the relegation zone. And as you'd expect, we did pick up a win here, especially with this one being in front of our home fans. But to be fair, did take a little while and some first team benching back for us here to pick up the win. Rene Muller come off the bench and picked up both goals as we secured a 2-0, and it does mean our new goalkeeper that we signed to replace Herders as the backup in Lingvar has now kept a clean sheet every time he's played. So Lukic, if he starts to underperform, could be under threat there as our first choice goalkeeper. But this was a pretty solid display. To be fair, stats wise, Stuttgart did get quite a few shots off, which was a bit concerning. As you can see there, we took the game relatively easy for the most part in terms of selection, quite a bit of rotation there with our starting 11, but that bench impact with some first teamers did allow us to get the job done. So we made our way through to the third round of the DFB-Pokal. Quite a kind draw that we do have. We take on Hamburg. Those guys, they currently sit in 8th. Expected to be a mid-table team, hopefully off the back of our current form, if we can keep that up. To be fair, they're not going too badly in the last couple of games, but that one might be winnable in front of our home fans yet again. So going quite well currently in both the Bundesliga and the DFB-Pokal. We'll see if that continues through the month of November and the early stages of December. But unfortunately, around that Stuttgart game, we have suffered our first real injury of the season so far. Been pretty lucky with injuries here at Jahn Regensburg in our first season in the top flight. But Stevan Pavicic, our backup centre-back, is out with a damaged foot for 5 days to 2 weeks. To be fair, he should be back in time for that cup game that will come back for second up in today's episode. But it does mean that Paul Cooper makes his way onto the bench here as our backup centre-back option for this first game. But apart from that, everyone is fit and available, so we should be okay here. So fingers crossed we can put up a decent fight here as we take on Eintracht Frankfurt. Recently, they've lost to Bayern and Gladbach, and around that, done a decent job in the Champions League, the DFB-Pokal, and did pick up a 2-0 win over Hamburg 5 games ago. So their form's a little bit mixed, but they are playing in some quite good competitions during the Champions League and did pick up the DFB-Pokal last season. So certainly are a team that can beat the top teams when they are on top of their games. So certainly going to respect these guys, but fingers crossed here with this one being at home that maybe we can find a way to pick up another one at home. So far, a perfect record in front of our home fans in the Bundesliga this season. Also, of course, in the Cup, we are yet to drop any points at the Jahn study on Regensburg's. Fingers crossed that continues here. First up in today's episode, you will notice though that bench is quite banged up. That's obvious because they just played in that second round of the DFB-Pokal, but thankfully we're able to give most of our first teamers there a decent rest. A few came off the bench, as you saw in the likes of Rene Muller, and made a big impact. But thankfully, all our first teamers are fit here for this Bundesliga game, and I think already the board are quite happy with the work we've done in the Cup as well. So we probably could just focus on the Bundesliga for the rest of the season. But seeing as so far we're getting some quite kind draws compared to what we've got our first couple of seasons here in Germany, when we got Bayern Munich in the first and second rounds in our first couple of seasons here, we might need to try and make the most of it and actually go on a bit of a cup run, because the money in the DFB-Pokal is actually really, really good, even in the first and second rounds. So fingers crossed that maybe we can get past Hamburg there second up in today's episode. Going to be quite interesting because we take them on about a week or so before in that game right before that cup one that also is at home. So a nice little stretch for us here of games in front of our home fans. So quite hopeful that we can pick up some good results. The only away one is against Stuttgart. They're down around 17th, so really should be picking up some good results here in today's episode. And thankfully, looks like we're on the front foot here in this first highlight of the game. Jimenez plays that forward to Ramsey, goes back there to Rene Muller in some superb form where he picks up his 9th goal of the season. He looks on track to beat what Leighton Stewart did for us last season in this VI Bundesliga. I think it ended up being 17. He's already quite close to getting double figures. We take a 1-0 lead at the 10-minute mark here over Eintracht Frankfurt. There, Muller, to be fair, gets a lot of help. A deflection there from a defender, but it goes past Muller there in goal for Eintracht Frankfurt, and we take a 1-0 lead, really, with our first decent attack of the game. So fingers crossed we can kick on like we did against Leverkusen in yesterday's episode and put these guys away. They should be a worse team than Leverkusen according to the season preview, but they are doing better in terms of the actual table position. So we'll see here how things go. We're definitely on the front foot here as we make our way to the final 10 minutes of the first half. So fingers crossed we can grab a cushion goal as Eintracht Frankfurt do now start to get a few more shots off in this game. And now free kicks, let's hope here we can hold on before halftime. They pick out their Brian down their left-hand side. Nice ball there for one of their attackers. Thankfully, Ruslan does win that one. That pass, though, not too great. It does force us to hit it clear straight back to an Eintracht Frankfurt player. Then they try and curve that one. I think that was Chitty into the bottom right corner, but thankfully that one just goes to the wrong side of the woodworker. Sebastian Lopez picks up a yellow card, so maybe we'll take him off here for La Rosa at halftime. But apart from that, I'm relatively happy with that first half. Got a 1-0 lead over a decent team. Yet again, we continue to look pretty hard to beat here with this team. The only issue has been away from home. We have kind of bottled things late now on a couple of occasions. Fingers crossed that doesn't cross over into our home games. But that one change there at halftime, La Rosa for the yellow card of Lopez. Apart from that, though, pretty happy with how we're looking at the moment here with this 1-0 lead. So fingers crossed we can hold on and pick up 3 more big points. Albeit first highlight of the second half, 5 minutes in, is a free kick to the away team in the black with the red trim. They try and play that one forward there again through Brian down the left-hand side. Nice ball back out to him there from Fury. Jimenez does try and mark up, but they play one backwards. Dal there will take on a shot, and Lukic can tip that one onto the woodwork. So a decent chance there for Frankfurt to make it 1-1. A bit long range, but Lukic does come up with a decent save. As I said before, he definitely needs to do quite well. Our backup goalkeeper is looking quite good in the DFB-Pokal so far. You'll see him in that second game in today's episode. Thankfully, nothing too dangerous from that corner. Off the back of that, we can hold on to our 1-0 lead. And now throw in pretty close to inside of the final third for us. La Rosa there will find Ramsey, goes to the left-hand side of the field, takes on a shot and forces a good save there out of the Frankfurt goalkeeper. So a good chance for us, just like the one down the other end, really, for Frankfurt. That shot was driven low, and we can't quite get it past the goalkeeper. Off back at Ruslan with a header, but it wasn't too threatening. And now they actually get into trouble as they try and make their way out from back, albeit a poor pass does mean that Scheibe can get back on the ball here for Frankfurt. Plays it in there to Zentner, and now it's a double barrel name there now. Fury, Lukic, I think, can tip that one onto the woodwork, but then he's missed the rebound and they've scored. That is a super soft goal to concede there. Lukic has not done too well at all. Let's just see a replay. Fury with a first time finish actually just comes straight off the woodwork. Lukic gets up and doesn't jump for it. That's awful work there from our goalkeeper. Maybe we need to consider just swapping him out for a game for our cup goalkeeper, because he can actually keep a clean sheet. That's really poor there from Lukic, who goes down to a 6.4. So poor that we might actually use a sub here and take him off Lingvar. You'll see him in the last half hour of this game. Also, we'll take off Walnut right wing, going poorly for Levente Toff, who can do a job there just like Bloso did for us last season as the backup striker. But unfortunately, that's a pretty soft way for Eintracht Frankfurt to make it 1-1 stats-wise. The game is relatively even. They got quite a high XG off that chance, but it was still a really soft goal. We can see we'll make another sub here. Ostić coming on for Jimenez, who has picked up a yellow card. And also, we might take off Hubner on a 6.4 for young Paul Cooper, see what he can do there in the last 20 or so minutes of this game as we are up to the 69-minute mark. Nice time here, one of our youngsters, to get a little bit of some tasty action in this game. Let's see what happens here late on as now Dawn drops down to a red hat. Maybe should have saved up one of those final subs for him or Manrique. And also to Berkweir, not going too well at left wing. But the last 5 minutes, to be fair, I think against a team like Eintracht Frankfurt, we'd be quite okay with a point from this game. But so far at home, we've not dropped any points this season. Is that about to end here in this first game of today's episode? Yes, it is. Lukic there with a bit of a shocker for that goal that Fury scored. He did not jump when he should have, and they score into an open net. So a bit disappointed that we haven't picked up a win from that game. We certainly weren't at our best, but Muller with the early goal, unfortunately, just couldn't quite put them to bed though. Eintracht Frankfurt, and we can see that soft one there, and it does mean that we drop points for the first time at home this season, but still, that should be enough for us to keep inside of one of those European qualifying spots. We'll just make our way through here, the post-match interview, and see what that does. Of course, got 2 more Bundesliga games to go through before we come back for that second game in today's episode, and they look quite winnable. Stuttgart away, it's away from home, but those guys do look pretty rubbish. And then Hamburg, that could be interesting right before we take them on in that third round of the DFB-Pokal. We'll continue to pump up the tyres on our guys here because they're doing quite well, and we do keep ourselves in 6th spot off the back of that point. It's a bit disappointing though the way we can see that goal, a 1-1 draw against Eintracht Frankfurt. And we are back a couple of weeks before I expected to come back here in today's episode. We've just played the one game because something's popped up, but we did play Stuttgart, a 2-0 win in the league there, away from home. Goals there to Muller just before halftime as well as early on this time. We did hold on away from home. Stuttgart continue to struggle, as you'll see shortly, but a nice solid 2-0 win there. It does mean that we do move up the table into a top 4 spot, a Champions League qualifying spot here with this Jahn Regensburg team, and we've only played 11 games compared to some teams. If we win our next one, we could even jump above Cologne, who have played 1 more game, also Gladbach with 1 more game played. Not too sure what's going on here in terms of the scheduling in the Bundesliga, but back in winning form away from home. You also notice there too, René Muller with those couple of goals is now the top goal scorer in the division. So René Muller doing a very good job for us here as our first choice striker. Certainly a better output, as I mentioned, than we were getting from Leighton Stewart the last couple of seasons in these Vibe Bundesliga. But off the back of that game, Stuttgart decided to fire their manager, and now they've come in and offered us a job interview, which would be interesting if they did it earlier in the season, seeing as these guys were predicted to finish 9th. But you can see that recent form, a reminder of what the table looks like. They are rock bottom below Mainz and Nürnberg. So despite the fact these guys are supposed to be a much better team than us, I don't think at this stage, 11 games into the season, that the table lies that much. So I think here we're just coming back for a little bit of a tease. Stuttgart, go and find someone else, because we are not going out of a Champions League qualifying spot to the worst team in the league. Not too sure what Alexander Wheeler is thinking. We're not going to Stuttgart while they're bottom of the league. And as I continue to make my way through here this international break between the Stuttgart and Hamburg league games, we are back yet again, which does mean another job interview offer, this time though from a team that I think we actually should probably attend the interview for, because it's Bayer Leverkusen. These guys so far, not the best start to the season, but are expected to be the 4th best team in the league. Now, obviously, absolutely pulled the pants down on these guys in yesterday's episode with that 4-1 win, but these guys do have Europa League football and are doing, if we check that, a pretty decent job. They are all the way there on top of the table with a perfect record. So to be fair, this might not actually be the worst jump we could make, despite the fact that they are down in 12th, I believe it is, here on the Bundesliga table. They are 8 points behind us, but to be fair, only 11 games played. That is something that we probably should make up with that season preview prediction that was given. So I think this time they've got a lot more points than Stuttgart and are playing in Europe. This one might be a bit more of an attend and see what happens. I'm not overly convinced about moving to a fellow German team, considering how well we're doing currently here at Jahn Regensburg. But let's see what they have to say. Let's attend this interview here with Bayer Leverkusen and see, to be fair, in real life, I am diabetic, and Bayer, they make drugs. So this could be quite useful for me just to keep living. So let's actually go here and attend this interview yet again, like was the case going to the start of the season. We'll boast about our loyalty there in that first question. Now this one, why do we want to move on? You're headhunting me. Let's say that actually our current circumstances bear little relation, because I'm not too sold on this, and they are headhunting me now. Can we assure them that we'd have no problem securing the backing of players? I think that we'll say that we're certain that we could do that, because it's been a pretty easy thing for us so far. We're making promises, because players in FM can be a bit random. but we'll go that way. Now, they've been performing well below expectations, even though they're on their best round of the season. Could we get this team back on track? I think we'll say that we'd only need to make 1 or 2 adjustments, and this team hopefully will get back on track. Probably just bring our tactic from Jahn Regensburg here, and hopefully that might make a difference. Now, Director of Football, let's see if he looks any good here. And Kim Falkenberg, he's pretty good apart from the negotiating, but that's actually quite a big deal with a DOF. And to be fair, we could just actually get him to be a chief scout and hire a new one. So I think they will say that we'll think about it, but probably just actually get him to work as a chief scout instead of a dual job. Not too sure by Leverkusen have someone doing 2 jobs there for a club of that size. Now, their board culture, pretty similar. Jahn Regensburg, sign players under 23 and play entertaining football, work within the wage budget, increase commercial revenue, because apparently that's a manager's job now, going down for the minimum 4-year contracts for first-team players, reach the later stages of the Europa League mid-table in the Bundesliga, and be competitive in the DFB-Pokal if they're still alive. And I guess they are, if that's still popping up there and then. They want to be the best of the rest. So I'm not too sure if that means they want to finish second in behind Bayern or actually challenge Dortmund, or if it's the big 2 here in Germany. That's a little bit loose-ended, that thing that they want us to do. But just try and be the best of the rest, which is certainly an interesting target. But we'll say that we're pretty happy there with those, because usually you can't change them anyway. They're targeting the table finish. There's still quite a few games left in this Bundesliga season, something like 23. So I think we'd say that maybe we could challenge for the Conference League, considering these guys are supposed to be the 4th best team in the league. A wage budget of 2.3 million. That's about 10 times what we've got currently at Jahn Regensburg. So very happy with that. Have they got a transfer budget? No, they've not. Nothing we can think of for this last question. Let's see if Bayer Leverkusen might offer us a job off the back of our good start to the season here with Jahn Regensburg. And we've gone forward a couple of days off the back of that Bayer Leverkusen interview. You can see here on the match day now for this Hamburg game in the Bundesliga. And we continue to absolutely suck at interviews. You can see it there that Kovac's gone back to Bayer Leverkusen because we did not get the job. We are really bad at interviews. FM should be something of an escape, but this is actually reminding me of real life when I go for jobs and have to do interviews, because I suck at those in real life too. FM mirroring real life, because I'm pretty sucky at them apparently in game as well. Niko Kovac, the former Dortmund manager, does get the job the second time apparently that he's been there, but I think the first time must have been as a player. Indeed it was, all the way back in 96 to 99. So to be fair, a little bit there of an all boys club. We did not get the job despite the fact we're doing quite well with this Jahn Regensburg team. So I think for now we're staying here at Jahn Regensburg, maybe for the rest of the season, depending on what jobs do open up around the rest of the mid-season, because it's definitely that time of year where sacking is taking place quite regularly. So I think now I'll make my way through this first Hamburg game, and we should be coming back for the 3rd round of the DFB-Pokal. And we are back, you'll see what for shortly, but we finally played that game against Hamburg in the league, and we absolutely destroyed them in a goal fest. We were 5-0 up here by halftime. A first half hat-trick to Levente Tofu started this game, because Muller did pick up a slight niggle, so didn't start this one. He was actually part injured, but still came off the bench there for Lewis Walden late on. He picked up a goal in the first half as well as Aaron Ramsey. That's where we got the 5-0 lead from. Second half, we made quite a few interesting changes, taking off some key players like Ruslan as well as Hubness. A little bit of a makeshift centre-back pairing there of Pavasic alongside LaRosa, and also gave some other players some decent game time, saying as this wasn't really under too much threat. We did pick up 2 goals through Rene Muller at right wing, but they picked up 2 as well. But still, that's not too bad. It was almost a rugby score. We beat them 7-2, so to be fair, not too sure if this next game we'll see is going to be too competitive at the same venue in the 3rd round of the DFB-Pokal, albeit we might do a little bit of rotation. Any players here who are just a little bit injury prone might get a rest, but to be fair, there's something like a 10-day gap between these games, so we should be pretty good. But here's the Bundesliga table. We've actually dropped down into 5th. You can see there, the fixtures played are a little bit weird. Cologne now 2 more than us. Augsburg, Bayern and Dortmund have played 1 more, so really, if we can make the most of our game in hand, we should get back inside of that top 4, but still sitting inside of a European qualifying spot, which makes what's just happened a little bit more interesting. We've got a job interview offer now from Wolfsburg. Now, these guys, if we go back, are down in 14th, not doing too well, just outside of that promotion relegation game, and they're 2 points clear of Nuremberg. So based on that, this probably is a team that we shouldn't attend the interview for, but you'll see it there. They are involved in the Europa League, and they actually, all of a sudden, are doing better than Bayer Leverkusen. So because of that, maybe we actually should attend this interview, and based on the season preview as well, these guys expected to be the 6th best team in the league. So I suppose, based on the European form, we'll actually go to this interview. Also, of course, we did draw off these guys free all the way from home. They did put up a bit more fight than Bayer Leverkusen did. So I suppose based on that, kind of makes sense to go see them, even though they are doing so poorly in the Bundesliga. So this idea, say, will be quite similar to that interview we just had with Bayer Leverkusen. Indeed, we've shown loyalty. Why do we want to leave our current job? We don't really. You guys keep headhunting me. Can we do a better job than the predecessor? My record speaks for itself. I think we can say that now at this point of our career. They've been performing largely as expected on their best round of the season. If you're performing as expected, why have you sacked your manager? I think we've got enough about us here to get the job done. That seems like a little bit of a weird question when you're 14th in the league on only 11 points. But anyway, let's move on. Director of football, what does he look like? Not too hot. So we'll probably say again, not too sure about him. Recruitment process, we want a fair budget. And here's the club vision. They want us to sign players based in Germany, which will make transfers a little bit more interesting here if we make a move to Wolfsburg, which again, I'm not super convinced about, but we'll see what they have to say here during this interview. Develop players using the club's youth system. Now, to be fair, the facilities here as well is back at Bayer Leverkusen. The youth players are a lot better than what we've got at Jahn Regensburg. So I suppose that's another reason it might be a good idea to make a move, work within the wage budget, increase commercial revenue, and spend the original transfer budget, which suggests they might still have it, which might be why they're struggling. If that is the case, going down further, the 4-year contracts again, the first team players again reach the latter stages of the Europa League, become established in the Bundesliga, which I'm pretty sure Wolfsburg might already be, and be competitive in the DFB-Pokal. But then they want us to qualify for the Europa League next season and then start to try and qualify for the Champions League. So to be fair, that's a bit more clear-cut than what we had there with Bayer Leverkusen. We'll be happy with that. They want us to avoid relegation this season if we took the job. I think actually we should finish mid-table. There's still enough time left, and holy cow, with that budget, we can definitely finish mid-table. I could probably buy the entire Jahn Regensburg squad for that budget of 34 million. I won't, but yeah, that budget's pretty good. What's the wage budget? 1.8 million. I think I'm quite happy with those budgets. All of a sudden, I might quite like this job here at Wolfsburg if it gets offered to us, because they've got an absolute butt ton of money. Seriously, what was the previous manager doing? Not spending it when you've got European football as well as German football, where you can register pretty much everyone you want with the lack of squad limits here in Germany. So that is a little bit interesting, that transfer budget. We might have to work with Wolfsburg. We'll see if that comes through before we go for today for the Hamburg game in the DFB-Pokal. And we've finally made our way forward here to the second game of today's episode off back of all those job interview offers. Still waiting to hear back from Wolfsburg, seeing it's only been 1 day, so we'll see what happens. That might be coming up though in tomorrow's episode, because you can see it off the back of this game. We've got Bayern and Leipzig in the league, so there'll be 2 pretty big games we can come back for before the winter break. And of course, that is actually next week at the start of it, so it won't be tomorrow. Might be a bit of a cliffhanger here for the end of this week here with that Wolfsburg job interview that we did just have. But Hamburg, we've just bet them 7-2. So based on that, really, we should be able to beat them all. But they've actually played a game in between that one and this cup one. Unlike us, they beat Schalke 4-0. So maybe that's given them a nice confidence boost. But before then, their form, pretty average, capped off with that thrashing that we handed them. And also losses to Bayern and Gladbach. But to be fair, those 2 teams were expected to be good, unlike us, who are certainly overperforming. But hopefully he can make our way through to the 4th round of the DFB-Pokal. It would be a nice cash top-up too, which is quite useful with our finances here currently at Jahn Regensburg. They aren't too good, which is probably another reason that these job interviews, some of them, we should be taking a little bit more seriously, especially for these clubs who are in Europe. But to be fair, we're doing a pretty good job here currently. Don't want to leave them in the lurch too much if we can help it. But if a job offer that comes up that's too good to turn down, we might have to make a move. But we'll see what happens off the back of this game we're about to play. We've got an injury, and that is to Levine Toff. He is out here with a tight thigh, so it does mean that Rene Muller, we are actually going to start here for this cup game, which usually is something that we wouldn't do, especially too, because Toff got a hat-trick in that 7-2 win in the league when we did take on Hamburg earlier. So that's a shame. Would have been quite nice to keep him in here for this cup game. So Miller comes back in, but the changes to our regular first choice 11, obviously goalkeeper Lingbar is in there. We did actually play Lukic in those couple of league games, and he did do a decent job. So thankfully Lukic is back in form, but as well as that, just giving a rest here to players who are slightly injury prone before we take on Bayern Munich in a couple of days' time. So it does mean that Ruslan, our captain, drops out. That is for Pavasic. Also, Sousa comes in for Uwe Dawn. And at right wing, we do have Greenwood coming in for Walden, albeit Walden is sitting on the bench as our striker and right wing cover, seeing as, of course, there is that injury to Toff, so he won't feature in this game. There are Hamburg going with a 4-4-2. And to be fair, it's a pretty similar looking squad to the one they put out in that 7-2 defeat. Alex Mariba there had about 3 back passes that we made the most of. So to be fair, got a bit of payback there for what happened against Borussia Dortmund in yesterday's episode. On the attack here early, albeit a pass from that throw-in a bit loose, but Lopez can get that one back for us now. Greenwood is on the attack, squares that one, can't quite find a teammate, but now Taberquia does get back on the ball for some reason. There doesn't look for his teammate out left in a ton of space, but thankfully he still scores the goal there from a tight angle. So again, we've scored early here against this Hamburg team who look like they might be cooked like a hamburger here. In this one, they are getting absolutely roasted from us here. It's now 8 goals in about 93 minutes. So we do like scoring here against this Hamburg team. Our first attack of the game, and we make it 1-0. So this might be quite a painful experience again here for the Hamburgers who are visiting here. Don't think they'll be burgling anything off us here in this game and trying to make their way through to the 4th round of this DFB Pokal. We certainly look like a much better team than these guys, so maybe we shouldn't really be thinking too seriously about moving on from Jahn Regensburg if we can go like this. But of course, that probably will get shown up a bit more in the next episode when we take on Bayern. If we can beat those guys, then definitely we should probably be considering staying, at least in terms of other German teams here in this league, albeit Hamburg that time do go quite close. The far post here, it comes off the woodwork. Actually a good chance here for Taberquia on the counter-attack, but unfortunately a little bit of loose touch there as he tried to make his way down that right-hand side, and the highlight comes to an end. But a good chance there for Hamburg to try and close things up. We're a bit loose there on the ball in midfield, so Hamburg again do get back on the ball, but Ramsey a foot in this game, going quite similarly to the one I played before in the league. A lot of challenges not getting blown up, and this time we score from it there as Greenwood can put it away from a tight angle, his first goal of the season as our backup right winger, mainly because Lewis Walden we have not been dropping because he's been doing so well. Miller will play the assist there, nice little through ball to get in behind the defence, and a nice finish there too from the young former Wolves player out of England to make it 2-0. So already a cushion goal. To be fair, this game not as dominant stats-wise as we were when we took these guys on in the league about a week or so ago. Now Alex Mariba with a free kick, but thankfully that one goes high and wide. Now down the other end, Taberquia does force a save there out of the goalkeeper. Nice little bit of whip on that one to force a save, but now we get a chance here from set piece for Pavasic at the near post, but unfortunately can't quite find him. And it looks like here that Hamburg will make their way out from back. Indeed they do, and the highlight does come to an end, and we make our way quickly through a couple of minutes of injury time, feeling pretty comfy here with a 2-0 lead. But unfortunately Sousa did pick up a yellow card there just before half-time, so Uwe Dawn can come on for him. And also Kamara is just coming back from injury, recommended for 45 minutes, otherwise actually would have started this game over Aaron Ramsey. So let's bring him on here at halftime, and hopefully he can build that fitness up for when Aaron Ramsey needs a rest. And of course, if we get a nice opponent in the next round of this cup competition, he might be quite a useful player to use as a starter in that game, whenever that will be, probably off the back though of the winter break. But first highlight here of the second half is Hamburg, who are on the ball. Mariba again pretty loose on the ball. He's looking pretty average here so far in this save, albeit we then lose it, and Hamburg are back on the attack. Shulinov will cut inside. Will he take on a shot here? Yes, he will, but that thankfully is straight into the path of Lingvar, who can make a save and continue to not concede a single goal anytime he's played for us here at Jahn Regensburg. So maybe he should be starting over Lukic here for us at Jahn Regensburg. But I'll open my mouth and now he's conceded. So all of a sudden Lingvar has conceded for us here at Jahn Regensburg. We've put a massive commentator's curse on us there. Unfortunately, our defender on the right-hand side and Pavasic comes out. Also Lopez can't quite cover, and Leonard does get in behind, puts it away bottom right corner, and it's game on as Hamburg make this 2-1. So maybe they've learned from that 7-2 thrashing that we dealt out to them in the league about 10 days ago, and now might be time for us here to make a sub. Tuberculosis has dropped down to a little bit of a deep yellow heart, so we might bring on here American, so hopefully Tuberculosis can recover in time for when we take on Bayern in the league. And also, let's bring on La Rosa here for Lopez, also on a little bit of a deep yellow heart. So let's see what these rotation players can do off the bench here in the last half hour or so. It does mean just one more sub left to make in this game, but let's hope our rotation players can do the job for us here late on. They're usually the ones that we've been playing in the cup competitions this season, but we did a big gap before this one and a week off the back of the Bayern game as well. So it did feel like a good chance here to play our first team. Looked like we were on the attack, but somehow Hamburg win that ball and Lenny gets another good chance. Thankfully, pulls that well wide though, so can't take that chance like he did earlier in the second half. To be fair, so far the second half has been pretty average from us, but now it's time to make our final sub. Carlos Manrique going a bit fairly the last couple of games that we've played, so Toby Collier will bring on there in that deep line playmaker role. Of course, Manrique was at fault for that goal we conceded when we lost to Dortmund at the end of yesterday's episode, but this time it is Hamburg here trying to make their way out from the back. Not doing a good job though. Jimenez can win that ball back for us here, so hopefully might be a chance for us here to put the nail in the Hamburg coffin. Thankfully, we just do enough here to find some space and amongst our defence. Dawn plays that to Collier, and now American will pick out Dawn. Some nice passing here down our left-hand side. Float that one far post, and Muller goes looking for a goal, but just puts that one the wrong side of the woodwork. So still only got this one goal lead, but now that we've made our way into the final 10 minutes, time for us here to start time wasting just a little bit, but not much more needed. This should be a team that we can hold on over. Actually a little bit disappointed that this one has been so close considering how we thumped them in that league game. Not too sure why it's not quite clicked as much here in the DFB-Pokal. But to be fair, this is a team who are actually supposed to be better than us. So yeah, they might have actually fronted up here instead of what they did the last time that we did play a game here with Jahn Regensburg. And actually off the back of going full time wasty, there is a highlight here and we are on the ball. So fingers crossed might get a chance here to make it 3-1. Try and play a ball there in the mixer. It does get cleared away, but we get it back. Collier can play that to La Rosa, and now Greenwood on the other side can find Jimenez. Can he put a ball here into the box? We eventually do. Greenwood does get off there. A decent chance, a good save there from the goalkeeper. It goes out for a throw-in. But I dare say off the back of our time wasting, we won't see that. Indeed, we don't. But a few minutes later, we have a free kick here just inside of our own half. Jimenez is back on the ball. He goes back to Pavasic. Those two have a nice little passing competition before Kamara can try and pick out Muller, but unfortunately a bit too much on that one, and Hamburg do get back on the ball and quickly start to make their way forward here down the right-hand side. Nice ball there in behind, and Gutierrez can square that one for Leonard. Big chance that he stayed on side, but yet again he misses the target. So Beefy Leonard has had the chance here to level this up a couple of times. Thankfully, he hasn't done the job, and we hold on and pick up a slightly average, but we get the job done. 2-1 win there over Hamburg's back-to-back wins here over a team expected to be mid-table in the Bundesliga. I wonder how long before they might get fed up with those couple of results that we just dealt to them as we pick up a 2-1 win. Obviously not as bad as the 7-2 win we picked up in the league about a week or so ago, but we still get the job done and make our way through the fourth round of the DFB-Pokal. Easily the furthest we've made it, considering that the last couple of years we got Bayern in the first round, and the second round probably about due to play those guys now, because I'm pretty sure they will still be in it here after only 3 games played. But thankfully this season our fixtures have been a little bit kinder here in the cup competition. To Berkweer, it was a great goal, and we're going quite well here currently at Jahn Regensburg, both in the league as well as in the cup, as Jurgen Klopp watches on, the German manager, in this save. But we are through the fourth round off the back of that 2-1 win over Hamburg. So we continue to go very well here at Jahn Regensburg in our first season up in the Bundesliga, picking up a couple of nice wins there in the Bundesliga off the back of that slightly frustrating draw we did pick up against Eintracht Frankfurt thanks to that Lukic shocker. And then we get past Hamburg 2-1. As I said, a little bit disappointing considering we put 7 past them just a week or so ago, but still, we've made our way through the fourth round. Not too sure yet who we get in that round. We'll probably reveal that when we come back for the next episode, because that happens the day before the Bayern Munich game, and we're definitely coming back for that one. So far I haven't beaten those guys the couple of times I've taken them on in the DFB-Pokal. Let's hope that maybe at home, where we haven't suffered a defeat so far here in the league, we might get a chance to take something off them for the first time. And also, we've then got Leipzig, and around that, I dare say, we should hear something back from Wolfsburg if we get a job offer. Still not too sure if it's the best idea with their league position, but they do have a big old transfer budget. So we'll see if I have a decision to make during the course of tomorrow's episode and around those games where we take on Bayern as well as Leipzig. Obviously, if we pick up some good results there, probably we should stay here at Jahn Regensburg. If they fresh us though, then maybe we do consider a move to Wolfsburg with that £30 million transfer budget. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode with those games and also a fair few job interviews that did pop up here in the Bundesliga. If you did, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well until the start of next week for Bayern and Leipzig, and maybe a decision on a new club here in this journeyman save. Thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.